In this video, I'll take my hydrogen molecule and break it apart, adding in an oxygen to make water. Then I'll take that water and make it part of a particle system to simulate lots of molecules in a gas or dispersion. To begin, I'll select my hydrogen molecule and break it apart by just pulling these elements. Then I'll hold Control and right-click and make another sphere. I'll make this sphere bigger, as the oxygen atom is bigger than the hydrogen. Here's a radius of 2. What I'll also do is make it a different color so I can tell them apart. I'll click on the color swatch next to the name and make the oxygen blue. Now I'm going to get these aligned. What I'm going to do is to select one of my hydrogens and press E for rotate. I'll rotate this over 60 degrees. I'll select the other and do the same. Notice that it's rotating around the original sphere because that's where I attach to, and so the pivot point is still in the middle of the sphere. Now I'll press T for top view and Z to zoom extents. I'll zoom in and position my atoms correctly. There's one hydrogen and a second, and I have a water molecule, or at least a representation. What I'll do now is to either attach these together or link them so they all move together. I'm going to select both hydrogens, picking one, holding Control and selecting the other, and clicking on the Select and Link tool. Then I'll click and drag from them, notice the drag lines, onto the oxygen. It flashes briefly, and I'll right-click to stop linking or choose Move. Now wherever I take the oxygen, the hydrogens go with it. What I may also want to do is group these. That way when I select it to be part of a particle, they all go together. This way I have some flexibility. The hydrogens are linked and I can break the link if I need, and then I'll have them grouped. I'll select them and choose Group and Group, and I'll name this group Water 001. Now I'm going to make it part of a particle system. I'll select my existing atoms off to the side and right-click and hide them by choosing Hide Selection. We have a lot of choices for a particle system here in 3ds Max, but really what I need to show is these atoms moving around in a cloud. What I'll do is I'll start out here by choosing Create, and instead of standard primitives under geometry, particle systems. We have two ways of dealing with particles. Particle flow, which gives us an event-based particle system, and our standard particles. I'll choose the simplest, a P-cloud, to start, and I'll click and drag to make a cloud. This gives me a volume for these to exist in. I'll right-click to stop creating and go to the modifier panel. If you'd like to emit from an object, you can pick one here, and we can choose how these particles work. What I'll do is I'll scroll down and choose under Particle Type, Instance Geometry, and then scroll down here into the Instancing Parameters. I'll click Pick Object and select my molecule. What we're seeing is that these particles are there, but they're showing up just as ticks right now, so we can see the motion but not necessarily the form. To fix this, I'll scroll back up to the Display Parameters, and in Viewport Display, I'll try showing the mesh. I'm seeing the mesh in my particles, but right now only the oxygen. What I need to do, and this is a choice I'm making to be able to separate the hydrogen at a later point, is to scroll back down into the Instance Geometry section and make sure I check Use Subtree also. Because I had linked those hydrogens to the oxygen, they follow along with it. And I can assign a material to these if I need, or simply let them be blue like water. Now when I hit play, they simply start out, and they don't have any motion yet. In the next video, we'll look at how to make these move and buzz around like molecules in a gas.